Hello and welcome to my False 9 custom tactic review. I've been meaning to make one of these for a while. I've been using this for a couple of weeks now, and actually had a request from one of you in the comments to kind of explain what I'm doing here. The point of this video is going to kind of tactically and technically go through it as best as I can. I'm not going to do gameplay clips in this one. I don't have those quite... I don't quite have the ones that I need. I'll need pretty specific ones, I think, to explain the actual build-up. But I'm going to try to do the basics and some kind of drawings and demonstrations of what you're doing instead of fully having the clips on showcase yet. But overall, I've been very, very happy with this formation, actually. So I'm someone who's used the 4-2-3-1 for the past 7 years, is it now? I think since FIFA 17. And I'm tired of it. I still think it's a good formation, and it's my second one I would fall back to if this one ever stopped working for me. But I'm so tired of playing 4-3-2-1s every game, and it's either that, a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-2-2, or 5 backs. You don't get anything else in this game. And this false 9 was my favorite formation in FIFA 15, back when I had a team of the season KDB from Wolfsburg up at center forward, and that card was just, that's my favorite FIFA card ever. But I used that formation pretty much all year, and the triangles and connections you get with all of the players, and that's what I'm going to be going through today. But that's it. It's just my favorite you can get in this game. And it kind of stems from that idea of, the probably the best club side we've ever had. That I think it's 2010, 2011 Pep's Barcelona with, I don't need to explain that team to you, I'm sure. But just trying to pass your way through teams and control games in that specific kind of way is kind of the idea. I'm also a Dortmund fan, and the way they play is very trying to get in the final third and then making a lot. They're not possession heavy, but they're not one of those teams that really tries to control games by passing around, your midfield and your defenders a lot. They kind of try to control games in the final third, is what I would describe. There's a lot of forward runs being made. There's a lot of connections between your midfielders and attackers. There's a lot of one-touch passes and a couple of those, flare back heels, fancy flicks and all that. But you get a lot of players congesting a very small area, and then you're doing short little 1-2s and trying to, just a little touch there, a little dribble there, a little pass off, give and go, all that stuff. And that's what I'm trying to replicate. I think this is the best formation I've found to be able to do that over the years, and I'm just, again, happy that I've finally found one that's worked. I've been trying to get this to work for 9 years now, and I will, of course, have to include the caveat that this is not your 4-3-2-1. This is not the best formation in the game. If you're trying to go into the pro scene, if you're trying to, if you need to absolutely win every single one of your games, no question. If you're, again, I've been playing since like 13, FIFA 13, so it's been 11 years, I guess. I spend at least 1,000 hours, if not 2 or 2.5 in every game, so I've been playing this for years. I normally get highly rated in the weekend league. I'm always elite division. So I'm able to, perhaps more than the average player, make up for the flaws and the weaknesses in this formation. But if you're not someone who has the hours in the game to be able to do all of that kind of stuff, then your 4-3-2-1, the deficiencies of that formation just aren't as apparent at least for the meta things in this game. This one definitely can kind of show a couple weaknesses here or there, and you have to play around them. So again, I will have that caveat. But for me, it's just it's so worth it for the way I'm able to play on attack. So let's go through my two formations I've got here, or two tactics. This one with possession. This one is going to be the one that I use for the games that are not against somebody who has very specific custom tactics, defensive ones. You get some games where, what's a good way to show this? You can kind of see here, so the grayer dots here on the right side. There are games you play where the defensive line is, when you make a tackle around here, you've got to turn over, you're trying to transition from defense to offense and push through that middle third up to the final third. People will either have, your 71 depth, a pressure tactic, something like that, and play maybe they spam offside track. Either way, they've got their players entirely pushed all the way up here on the halfway line. And this just creates no space. There's nothing to do. All of your team's squished. And when that happens, one of the problems with a lot of formations I've found over the years, and this one still has that problem, but not as badly, is when your players are congested, they don't make runs. And so when you're playing that, when they've got the entire back four all the way across this halfway line, and there's no runs being made at all, I think it's better to use the other one, and we'll go through that in a little bit. Of course, it'll be better to use direct passing, but again, that's not the way I'm trying to play, and I'm tired of having that be the meta for the past couple of years again. So this is the one I use in the games that there's just a little more space. I can leave a little bit more of my imprint on the game, and I'd rather win in a specific way than, and maybe, I'll win by a goal or 2 or 3 instead of 4 or 5 or 6, and I'm willing to have that, or I'm willing to lose an extra game here or there to play the specific way. Again, when you're facing that kind of custom tactic, high press, all that stuff, then it'll be better to have this one, but we'll go through the other formation the way I've got it. So for now, when you've got a little more space, it's going to be this one here. I've got the same defensive style, width and depth on both of them. Sometimes I've done slow build-up that it's a little bit easier when you make these turnovers, or you make a tackle and you're trying to progress through the middle third. But I think it disadvantages you further up the field, especially if you're able to kind of generate a quicker attack and you get a little bit further forward a little quicker, and you've just got no one's in support. And when that happens, it's especially easy for your opponents to kind of press you out of the game and just congest everything up too much. So I'm finding balance to work the best, but if you are really struggling with this one, when you do make those turnovers in your half and trying to transition the ball over, then slow build-up's worth a try. I wouldn't personally go with it, though. What possession does, if you haven't used this, it creates stronger... This example they've got here on the side is really bad for what it actually does. It makes better shorter runs and more frequent shorter runs, I would say. But it's not as good in the final third as well. But you get a lot more movement and a lot more vertical forward movement out of your midfielders specifically than... Maybe forward runs also kind of does that, but more than direct passing or balanced for me. So the benefit of that is you're actually getting more movement here, and you're able to use your midfielders, I would say, a little bit more than usual. If you're on the balanced one, they're a little bit more static. They're a little bit, they don't quite move as much. So you're able to get them a little more involved, but they don't make that final transition into the box as well. And they don't make runs that win you the game, is what I'm going to say. The benefit of direct passing and occasionally of the balance tactic is when you're using those ones, sometimes they will just kind of make a run that's like, okay, well, this run happened. They're open. I pass the ball to them and they go score. Possession's not going to do that for you. Again, if you want to do that, direct passing is the way to go. Here, that build-up's a little bit stronger, but finishing, I definitely find I get chances that aren't as strong, finishing angles and just not quite as meta and able to get into those specific areas, But again, when I'm able to leave my imprint on the game a little bit more, I definitely enjoy this. Instead of kind of scoring the same goals you've scored over FIFA for the past couple of years, your touch lines, this year you've kind of got crosses and touchline spam and a couple other passing areas that are really strong, or you're just going for outside the box chavelas or finesse shots, then this kind of isn't the way to go. But if you want to rely on dribbling and, short passes a little more, I'm definitely enjoying this. Players in box on 7, just to try to counteract what I said if they don't make those forward runs as much. Width, I've always got somewhere between like 45 and 38. I wish I could have a wider formation. And despite what I'm saying about how like the congestion kind of ruins the attacking AI, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more. For some reason with this, they just don't make as many runs in general. It's like they don't know how to run off of each other. So at least having a greater connection between your players in this regard actually allows you to kind of use them more often than not. especially when you've got a higher width and you've got like your left wing with the ball. The right wing's not really going to get into the position that you need. So with this, sometimes, you're able to use pretty much all of your midfielders in one single attack. I think the higher widths you can't. And then the custom tactics here, goalkeeper doesn't really matter, but it comes across as sweeper keeper. Fullbacks I've got unbalanced on both formations. You should probably have a custom tactic that has stay back. Again, I'm going to get into the congestion part of it a little bit more, but when you've got more attackers overall, all of your players make worse runs. When you've got your fullbacks involved, it also drags the opponents back a little bit more. So they'll either have their strikers come back or get their wide mids come back, and everything just gets much less space to pass through. I'm still finding the benefit of having these on balance instead of stay back. Partially just because of realism of it. I like watching fullbacks attack in real life, and it generates some of those opportunities here, But they also do make some genuinely good passing angles with everything else. You do also need the width. I will say if you've got your wingers kind of cutting all the way inside, then having some availability of them to kind of keep the opponents a little bit further spread apart. Because if all of your players get all the way towards the middle, then your opponents almost all of their players end up in the box. At least here, the fullbacks will keep the opponent's fullbacks a little bit wider. That can create a little bit more space for your wingers to get involved. CDM is going to be in stay back and cover center on both of them. Get into box and balance otherwise for both wingers. Get into box I think is pretty much required if you have balanced or any kind of stay back or anything. Then I just can't get the connection between them that I need between your center mid, your winger, and your center forward there. The wingers are going to be, on this one, cut inside, getting behind, getting for cross. The getting behind, I think, is... And it's not the way I want to play. I want to do come short. But again, everything will just get a little bit too congested, and you won't get enough movement out of your players. At least with them on getting behind here, you'll actually get better runs out of all of your other players. That's really the benefit of having it like that. Now, if you have getting behind on all of them, if Jota here in the center forward, if he's getting them behind, your other players aren't going to be, but it will open up a little bit more space for them, kind of where they're a little more stationary. They're just residing in general. I prefer balance and getting everyone else a little bit more involved, but the wingers, with this possession tactic specifically, having them getting behind will just create a little bit more vertical opportunity for everyone else. I normally want to do false 9 on this one. Again, I think with the possession tactic, it doesn't work. You need a little bit greater verticality again, so having him a little bit more forward, because possession is doing the work for you of creating those passing angles, those short opportunities of getting everyone a little bit more connected. You don't need the connection of false 9, I think, in this one, which again is what I want out of my center forward. But also on possession, he's just not going to get into the box ever if you've got this on him. At least you'll get some more finishing availability out of him. If you're unbalanced, could do getting behind. Maybe if I'm using Mbappe up here instead. But I much prefer my explosive type players, and I'll get into the types of players I use for this too. This one, a little bit more of your kind of meta. You're playing against somebody really strong, or I'm playing an elite division where every single game is going to be just the biggest struggle you've ever had in FIFA. Same defensive style again. Gonna do balance for both. This makes it, I think, direct passing. I mean, it's predictable, but it's really spammy on relying on very specific opportunities and scenarios that aren't the ones I'm trying to score. So you're looking as far up the field as possible, pretty much, with this tactic. And again, that's what you want in FIFA, because otherwise you're just going to... The way I'm playing, especially on this other one, but this one too, is I'm allowing the opponents to congest. I'm saying, hey, turtle up, you can be on defense. I'm going to break you down anyway. That's kind of how I'm playing. It's not the meta way of FIFA. If you play, a more direct style, then you're actually going to create a lot more space, but you're going to have less players to pass through that space with, and just kind of less opportunity in general to play the style I'm trying to emulate. And hopefully the style that's a little bit more fun to watch. That's also what I'm trying to do, but it's definitely a lot more fun for me to participate in. But balance, it maintains a good structure. You don't get the short runs out of possession, but you get better opportunities in the final third. It can, again, of course, be a little bit difficult with the press, but other than that, you get a great kind of stability and structure out of the formation, but you also get some fluidity of where your players are all moving to. The defense on this one going to be the same. Actually, let's set the goalie where I want there. Same on the fullbacks. Again, same comments on I should have one to stay back on attacking, but I don't. CDM's going to be the same. Your center mids are going to be the same for pretty much the same reasons. I need some involvement of them getting a little bit further forward. Jota's going to be on false 9 here in the center forward. And instead of getting behind, I've got come short for both the wingers here. The idea here is balance is going to push a little bit more runs out of them anyway. And they're, again, a little bit better at getting into the box. But then instead of getting against all the way against the full depth of the back line and pushing it as high up as they can without being offside that you'd probably get if you had getting behind on any of them. Come short will still allow them to get involved in the play, but they're still going to be pretty forward, but they're definitely a lot easier to pass to. It's kind of like what you would expect out of target player, but instead of them backing in and asking for the ball, they come a little bit shorter, a little bit more available, and you just, again, I think get greater triangles, greater connections out of it. The players you want to use, again, the style I'm trying to emulate is, I think you definitely want the explosive type players across the top. I think I'm at the point where I don't want to use not explosive players for the rest of the year. Even with Mbappe here, Dybala, Mbappe, Ousmane, they should all be great dribblers. I just can't. I don't get the short passes out of them I want. I can't do the tight little turns and agility stuff that I need with these players here. And I'm not relying on the pace of Mbappe or the power of him. It's kind of the tactics of it are kind of making your strength, your pace, those kind of things a little bit more irrelevant. The things I need are a little bit greater of a passing ability, which, hey, Mbappe's great at that. It's also a little bit less reliant on the player's attacking positioning. The formation's kind of designed to get them into the positions they need to be anyway. So instead of, having the strengths of Mbappe's getting behind and, kind of his power and his pace and all of that, I'm relying on these players to get kind of, a little bit worse attacking AI, get kind of more generally in the positions they need. But I'm greater with these players, at least for me personally. I'm greater with them, your explosive types here, of taking that 1 or 2 touches and then making that final killer pass or skill move, rather than relying on, okay, Mbappe's just going to kind of do the work for me. It's definitely a very active, a very involved formation. You have to do kind of a lot of the work yourself. It's not quite going to generate chances for you, except in one specific area, which I'm going to get to.